Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Bauska in Latvia. As you can see, we're kind of in the southern part of Latvia on the border here with Lithuania. Like most of Latvia, Bauska municipality is very green and very wet. The Baltic states, especially Estonia and Latvia, are very wet, almost kind of marshy regions of Europe. There are many rivers flowing through this area, but the two main ones we're going to talk about are right here, the Musa and the Memeli, which I'm probably mispronouncing. But they meet here in the town of Bauska and flow out as what I'm definitely going to mispronounce, the Lilupe River. I hope I was close. My Latvian and Baltic viewers are all very kind. You can correct me down in the comments below. I'd appreciate to know how it's actually pronounced. I know I goofed one recently thanks to Wikipedia. But yeah, that's a different story. This is a small region in a small country, so there's not much to say about geography, but there is a lot to say about history. So let's get into it. I was just watching my nails change color in the camera. Have you noticed? They're like green and blue and purple. I'm obsessed. I think they're pretty. Anyway, moving on. And always, just like a note, I don't really advertise this, but at the start of each video, there's a little tab that pops up there that says View Products, and I always link my nails in there, so you can get these too if you want, and I'd get a little commission if you want to help support my channel and look fabulous at the same time. But anyway, I also always tag this atlas in it, because I get asked, probably the most common question I get is, what atlas are you using? So it's there in the products. So you can see what it is and maybe even buy it if you're so inclined. But let's talk about the history of Bauska. So this region historically was home to the Semigalians, which were the native pagan people living in this corner of Europe. The Baltic states being very famously one of the last parts of Europe to be Christianized. This region began to be Christianized in 1219 and would progressively move on. But since this was one of the last pagan corners in Europe, many knights, particularly in what we now call Germany, would crusade up here and conquer and convert and build large fortress castles. And they definitely did that, basically establishing the town of Bauska in the 15th century when the Livonian order built their castle here. It was a very tiny town and actually very subject to fires because there weren't a lot of stone or brick buildings. It was mostly wood. So most of its early history is made up of the fires that happened there and how it had to relocate off of the castle mound to where it is now because it burned down. But in 1561, after the Livonian Wars, this region became part of a duchy called Courland and Semigalia, which is one of the more obscure, unknown former countries of Europe. If you've never heard of it, I should say if you have heard of it, brownie points to you for knowing your obscure European former countries, I suppose. There's quite a lot of them, and Courland and Semigalia is one of the more obscure and random ones. But essentially it was a duchy under Poland, technically at this time the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, but mostly Poland. All the sources I read just referred to it as part of Poland, even though Lithuania is really literally right here. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of Poland, this region was a battleground during the Polish-Swedish War. In fact, the big guy himself, Gustavus Adolphus, one of the more obscure kings of Europe, with a very colorful history. He was very enthusiastic. He actually marched through Bauska and destroyed the town when he was marching through during that war. He's a very famous figure during the 30 Years' War. That's when more of his eccentric stories come out. Interesting character. You should research him if you've never heard of him before. Kind of like the Napoleon before his time, but very Swedish. So for a hot minute, this was part of Sweden. During the Great Northern War, 1706, Russia would come and take over. And as they were being booted out and they were retreating, they burned down the castle. Did I say the year? 1706? I just said the war. Did I say the year? I literally don't remember. They burned down the castle. And the ruins from that event are still existing today. Like the Courland region that this became afterward rebuilt a castle that was much more modern and glamorous, and that still exists too, and they exist side by side, the ruins with the luxurious, beautiful castle. And of course we'll look at that on Google Earth also. Bauska Castle has a virtual tour on their website, and it's wonderful. I'm going to link it in the description box down there. It's worth your time to explore this castle through their virtual tour. It's stunning. It's stunning. Great virtual tour. I've done some virtual tours that were kind of blah, but this one was really wonderful. But in 1795, Courland region, I suppose, was incorporated into Russia during the third partition of Poland. See, it always comes back to Poland here. But this is the last time it'll come back to Poland, because after the third partition, Poland ceased to exist. And this became part of Russia. Now, at this time, there was what was considered then a very multicultural population here in Bauska. There were, of course, Latvians. We are in Latvia, after all. There is also a very large population of Baltic Germans, German culture, German language, etc. And then, of course, Russians come in. Now there's a Russian population. And in 1799, Russia allowed Jews to live in Bauska. And once they did, their numbers increased dramatically to the point that the Jewish population became like half of the population of the city, and there is a thriving culture. They had 2 beautiful synagogues. They had many Jewish scholars living there, and it was a very Jewish-friendly town at this time. That was, of course, not to be for long. Number one, during World War I, the Russians forced them all to evacuate, and many did not return after the war. Also, the Germans came in and occupied the town from 1915 to 1918. And after they retreated, the end of World War I, Latvia's like, are we on our own now? And the Soviet Union was like, no, you're not. You're part of us. And the Soviets invaded Bauska in January of 1919. The Latvians would fight them off for months, and they eventually retreated in November 1919, and Latvia became independent. But that, of course, would not last long, because World War II was just around the corner. And after, say it with me, regular viewers know every time we talk about Eastern Europe, we have to mention the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which was an agreement between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany that if they did go to war, what parts of Europe would they take over? And they just kind of had an agreement that the Germans can have this side and the Soviets can have this side. And this side fell into the Soviet sphere of influence. So when World War II did break out in 1940, the Soviets came rushing in and said, this is ours by agreement. And they occupied the town in I think by 1940. In 1939, because the Soviets were coming, all of the Germans fled out of Bauska, and that was the end of the German population here. The Soviets would control this area until 1941, until Nazi Germany took it over. And unfortunately, that was the end of the Jewish population here, because they would have the entire population executed by the end of 1941. How heartbreaking is that? It was about 800 people. I'll show you a memorial they built recently in the town for the Jewish population. Devastating, devastating, devastating. But of course, those times were hard for everyone involved, and it all came to a head in 1944 when the Soviet army came to reclaim their land, and there was a huge battle here. And the Soviet Union won out and became part of the Soviet Union once again, which is, of course, also never a good time for anyone. And the people here resisted in the safest way they could, and it really started to come to a head in the late 1980s when it was apparent that the Soviet Union was slowly collapsing. And the Baltic states realized that the way to go was peaceful protest. There's a lot of singing protests, for the best example. But the most famous one was called the Baltic Way, where through the 3 capital cities, you can see Riga is right here, they formed a human chain going through the Baltic states, and it went through Bauska, one of the more famous human chains in history, which led me down the human chain rabbit hole and found out that the largest human chain was actually in 2020 in India, but that's a whole other story. Gosh, it was around 6 to 7.5 million people. That's wild, but that's a whole other story. The Baltic Way occurred on August 23rd, 1989, when all the people here, not all the people, but the people came together and held hands as a way of showing peace and showing the world, this is happening to us, this is our message. So, of course, once the Soviet Union collapsed, Latvia became an independent country, and here we are today. And in a nutshell, that's the history of Bauska. With that being said, why don't we just hop on over to the tablet, because I have some neat things to show you. Do you guys want to see Rabbit City? I'm not even joking. Rabbit City. Let's go to the tablet. Here we are in Bauska municipality. It's very hard to see the borders amongst all of this beautiful green, but it's there. Let's start by zooming out so you can see exactly where we are in the world. Here is beautiful Latvia, which we visited many times on the channel. I'll link my playlist up there. The slideshows are always the best part of Latvia for me, this part, the Google Earth part. But you can see we are in the Baltic region here. There's Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Poland's right there, and we talked about Poland a lot. And this is the Baltic Sea, hence the name. Of course, Russia's just over here. Sweden's over here. All the places we talked about in its history. And Germany. We talked about Germany a lot. So let's head over to Bauska. I'm trying to find it. There it is, Bauska. Here is the town, and here, of course, is Bauska Castle. Bauska Castle Museum. So here you can see the new castle, which by new, it was built in like the late 1700s. So technically it's new, but it's not very new. But there's the old back here. Let's check it out. Isn't that so picturesque? Gorgeous, gorgeous. And here's the old castle next to the new. Very haunting, isn't it? You can imagine the medieval hustle and bustle happening here in this courtyard. It is on a sunny day. It's quite you know, a contrast between the two castles. Oh, that's so fun. I would love to explore this. And some beautiful costumes because this is a museum. Oh, a big old fireplace there in the kitchen. It's the castle vibes. The castle vibes, though, are just off the charts, aren't they? Amazing suit of armor. This place is awesome. Look at these beautiful windows, too. Amazing. I have some other castles to show you, but before that, I told you I would show you guys the Jewish memorial. Just over here, right here. Synagogue garden. So this was where the main synagogue was. Of course, it was burned down in 1941. There's the memorial. Rocks placed respectfully. Beautiful statues here. Isn't that beautiful? Very haunting. And this looks like a menorah. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. It looks like a tree at the same time. Let me see. And here on this slab here, you can see the surnames of all the families that perished. It is just unfathomable, isn't it? One of the world's greatest tragedies. I just remembered, which is random. We have the river here. I want to see what it's called. Yep, they call it the Latvian name Lielupa. But in German, it's called Aw, which is just the best name. Aw. 10 out of 10, no notes for the German name. I have to show you some cool castles, but I have to remember where they are first. Here we go. We have, I'm going to show you this one last, but we have this castle first, which is actually a hotel now. Look at this. You could stay here. How stunning along the riverside. And yeah, it is just luxurious. I would stay here. The little bridge they've made across the river. So quaint. Ooh, on a snowy day. Beautiful piano there and beautiful gardens as well. But look at this over here. You can even see from above the French garden. Wow, that is amazingly done, isn't it? There's a bathroom right there. But this is now a museum, but it's giving Versailles like crazy. Look at this. We're in Latvia. This is not France. This is not the Loire Valley. This is not Versailles. But it sure does look like it, doesn't it? Oh, wow, all of the vases there. Yeah, they definitely modeled this after a French castle, probably giving, oh, it's pretty, like a very Versailles vibe, right? Let me show you. Oh, it's stunning. Oh, the staircase there, the chandeliers. And I think it's this last picture. Yeah, it's giving the Hall of Mirrors. There's no mirrors here, but it looks like the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles, but woody and beautiful still. Yeah, I wonder, does it say when this was built? 1736 to 17, you can't say 1740, and then 1764 to 1768. So yeah, Marie Antoinette times, when this was all the rage. How interesting. Alright, I did promise you Rabbit Town. I call it Rabbit City. It's Rabbit Town. Rabbit Town. Rabbit Town. Rabbit Town. Let's go. Let's see. Do you see the little rabbit church there? How cute. Look at the bunnies. I don't know what this is. I mean, I assume, oh my gosh, look at the geese there, or ducks. Obviously it's a town meant for the rabbits, but why? I I guess, oh, cute. I guess because Latvia, that's why. Look at the Highland cow. So sweet. Rabbit town, rabbit town, rabbit town, rabbit town. It's giving Beatrix Potter here. This is giving like just, oh, a turkey. It's giving just like animal friendly paradise. Just, you can imagine like if this was a Disney movie, they'd all be talking to each other. Disney make a movie about Rabbit Town. Don't make it Watership Down. Just make it happy. We don't need a Watership Down moment. They made a movie of Watership Down. Don't watch that. The book was interesting. The movie's kind of traumatizing. But moving on. So, Latvia always has surprises for us on Google Earth, so I deliberately did not look up any to try to find some for you. That was all that I saw. What's this? Oh, I did look up this. It's a pyramid. Oh, Latvia. Never change. On this little farmstead here. So quaint. There's a pyramid. Because Latvia, that's why. And then let's see what this is. Oh, how pretty. Little old house. Oh my gosh, is there a canal running underneath it? Stop. Oh, it's a mill, that's why. It's a big old mill. That would explain why the river's running through there. So it can power the mill. How lovely. So I assume this is a little maybe museum / gift shop kind of thing. Whoa. This windmill's on wheels. What in the world? Whoa, an old locomotor. What is it doing? I guess they just sent the windmill down the tracks. There's a tractor. Old cars. Old equipment. Okay. Interesting. Let's see. I think there was a little natural park over here somewhere. I don't remember if I poked around in it or not. Let's make sure we're still in Latvia. Bauska municipality. We're good. I think it was over here. See, there's the windmill place. Maybe not. Let's see what else we can find. What's this? I have no idea how you even begin to pronounce this. There's symbols in there. I do not know what sounds they make. But let's see what it is. Oh, it's a beautiful orchard. Oh, look at the blossoms. There's music happening here because of course it is. We're in the Baltic states. Sheepies. You guys, if you're ever bored and there's nothing to do, hop on Google Earth and just roam around Latvia. There's always something amazing. Look at that. Set up for a concert. They playing the accordion? Of course they are. Oh, Latvia. Oh, wow, they have a feast. Little fruits. Maybe apples. More music. What a fun farm. Music and fresh fruit. You can't go wrong. Let's see. Let's find one more place to look at. Let's go up here. I did not explore up here. We're going to look at this town, which I also don't know how to pronounce. Oh, they got a big old railway bridge. Oh, that's the only picture. Darn. No, I don't want to drop a pin. Let's look. Oops, we can't wind up in Jelgava. Let's put the borders back up. Just so we don't wander off too far. One more. What's this? A dune. Whoa. Whoa, it's pretty in the snow. Maybe a hiking trail? Pretty cool though. Oh, look how pointy. This is beautiful. Let's end the video here. Hopefully there's no weird surprises in the slideshow that distract me. But thank you so much for watching. Dog, that's what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh, it's a dog. If you enjoy this style of content, please consider subscribing, and especially subscribe now, because where are we going next? The place that you guys have been asking, when is it coming? When is it coming? It's here. We are going to Bavaria. That's going to be a big one. Long history and even more incredible sights to see. Plus, I have a personal history with Bavaria. I'll tell you all about it. I won't spoil it. So you have to subscribe so you won't miss out. Oh, what a cute snowman. If you learned something new today, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know what you learned down in the comments. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. There it is, Bauska. And I hope that you have a good night.